They taught us the way that was good to them, that what they knew. But today, thanks to all the studies that people have done, we get to know a better understanding about children, the psychology of children, the psychology of adolescents, and how they are growing and how we can enrich and nourish them to grow. So today we will try to understand parenting. That would include for parents and teachers as well, all those people who are dealing with children at different age groups. It could be toddlers, it could be children between, say, 8 to 12 years old, or it could be even children between 12 to 19 years old, which we call it as adolescence or colloquially as teenage. And we are dealing with these kind of children at various levels, either in our own families or in our schools or in our workplaces or the place of worship. We encounter them. Now, it is also a responsibility for the grown-ups who have been children once upon a time to nurture these children, to understand them, and also to help them grow so that they are emotionally stable, mentally sound, and physically healthy. So I would like to begin with a journey towards a positive parenting, a journey towards positive parenting. Sorry. Now, friends, when we're talking about a journey, that means it's got a distance. That means it's got, it doesn't have an end, but still it's got a long way. So it's a process moving from one stage to another. So there'll be different kinds of growth that can take place during various ages. A lot of transformation can take place during these years, such as mental capabilities, physical growth, emotional growth, psychological growth, relationships, responsibilities. So it is a long journey, but it's a beautiful journey. So that's the journey that we are going to take in. So the journey towards effective parenthood. So parenting is something that we are going to deal with. Now, basically, it is a gift. Basically, it's a gift, parenting, because we have the co-responsibility along with God to nurture creation. Parenting is basically, I am acting on behalf of God to nurture creation. That means children. So it's also my responsibility to make them healthier, happier, and better. Now, parenting is like a garden. That's what we need to nurture it. We need to help them to learn, help them to grow, create an environment that is conducive for them so that all this learning happens very well. Now, parenting also has an element of trust. It's trust building because we learn trust because we work in a group. We are social beings. Therefore, we don't exist in isolation, whether in a community, whether in a congregation, or whether in a place of worship, or at work, in a school, everywhere we work together. So there is one vital element, that is trust. So we need to understand trust, and that trust begins at very, very young age, as soon as the baby is born. So therefore, parenting is trust. It's trust building, but basically it is trust itself. Now, parenting is work. It's hard work because it's not an easy job. It's tough. Now, say for example, we have children. They throw temper tantrums, they roll on the floor, they scream and they shout, and we don't know what to do. Or a teenage girl or a boy, they don't listen to what we say, they do what they want, and they rebel, and we don't know what to do. But heart of heart, we wanted to do something, but we don't know what to do. So it's a labor, Definitely it's difficult, but it's a labor of love because it is creation in the making. So it is a worthwhile effort. And basically, it brings out a lot of joy because we are involved in life itself. Now, let's get into this and see, okay? Meeting the child's need to age 18 or something longer. So we'll try to understand. Before we could, let's try to see what are the myths and what are the realities. So myths, I mean misconceptions. There are a whole lot of misconceptions that revolve around parenting or that revolves around dealing with children. Okay. And what are the realities? That's what we'll check first. Now, the first myth is all parenting skills are instinctive. That means we are born with the skills to take care of children. Some of you might say, yes, we have that within us. Probably yes, but mostly no. We don't have a set of skills. We learn. Now, say, for example, a new mother, when she becomes pregnant, what does she know? Nothing. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't know what it means to be pregnant. She doesn't know what it means to have morning sickness. She doesn't know what it means to go through the labor pain. It doesn't know what delivery is, and she doesn't know what will happen during delivery, and she doesn't know after the baby is born how to take care of the baby. Initially, this is what happens. For the mother, everything is trial and error. The mother takes care of the baby by trial and error. And how? For her, everything is the same because the baby's communication is very, very minimal. Now, the baby here speaks only one language. You know what language it speaks? Crying. Crying is the only language that the baby speaks. Now, why does the child cry? It cries for every possible reason. Mosquito bite, crying. Hunger, crying. Ear pain, because they are very sensitive to ear, they have crying. They have upset stomach, they have diarrhea because they're new to digestion. They have problems there, crying. Change of diapers, they're crying. Now, we don't know which crying is for what because that's the only language the baby speaks. But have you ever realized, after a while, the mother tends to understand which cry is for what? A sharp cry and a long pause and a shallow breathing. That is stomach upset. The mother knows that. Okay. Shrill crying without stop. That means the child is hurt. It's in pain. That could be because of a mosquito bite or it could be anything. The mother understands. So in a while, the mother tends to understand the baby. And the mother speaks a language that only she understands and the baby understands. The mother makes a noise, the child makes a noise, the mother makes a noise. It seems both of them understand. Now, the fact is, we don't have a set of skills, but we learn. So therefore, this seminar that we are attending is worthwhile because this is a learning process. We are learning skills, basically, so that we can take care of children. Myth number 2, a mature adult can be a parent. Sounds okay, but is it true? No. Humans are not perfect, so no one can be a perfect parent. Mature adults should strive to become competent parent, not perfect parents. Now, there's a difference here. Now, just because we are grown up in age doesn't mean we have all the skills how to take care of the child. Because when a child is born, your peace of mind is gone. That's what happens. Because the child needs feeding, gets hungry, because the tummy is very small. So whenever it's hungry, every second hour, it starts crying. You can't sleep, you can't work, you can't leave the baby. It is not that very easy. But then they have coping strategies. So just because we are adults doesn't mean we know how to take care of children. The myth number 3 is good parenting guarantees good children. Really not so. Just because you parented well doesn't mean your children will turn out to be well, because children learn. Like in psychology, there is a theory. I don't want to get into the dynamics of it. I'll just tell you. Children learn by observing the others. Children learn by observing others. I'll give you an example. I was traveling by bus the other day, and there was this small little kid who might be 4 years, 5 years old. His father sitting next to him. His father has this habit of using tobacco, chewing tobacco. So he did this. Okay, I was observing him, and one of my hobbies is to observe people, body language. So what he did exactly like what I'm doing, right? He put his 2 fingers inside his shirt pocket, pulled out a packet of tobacco. He tucked it, tore it, put it in his hand, rubbed it together, took it. He did this and put it inside his mouth. Now, this is exactly what he did. Now, the child who was only 4 years or 5 years old, sitting there, but he doesn't have any tobacco. But then the child did exactly the same. The child put the 2 fingers in the pocket. There was nothing there. Imaginary packet. Then tapped the imaginary packet, tore the imaginary packet, put the imaginary tobacco, rubbed it, did this, and put the imaginary tobacco in the mouth, and sat like this, just exactly like the father. Now, that is what we are talking about. Children learn through observations. It's called observational learning. There was a psychologist called Albert Bandura who did a lot of study on that. Okay, so just because we have provided them every possible good parenting tips doesn't make them good, because the outcome also depends on what they learn by observation. Influence outside the family, such as peers, adults other than parents, and media affect children. So that is what we are talking about. Okay. What is the 4th myth? Parenting is always fun. Yeah, it's fun, not always. Like any other job, parenting can be fun, sad, exciting, boring, satisfying, frustrating. Adults should have realistic expectation about parenting. So when we are talking about children, let's step back and say that this is fun, but that is not easy. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's frustrating. Now you will know, people who are working in schools, you will know it's so frustrating dealing with some of the students. Some will be sleeping, some will be talking, some will be totally lost, and some will be distracting the other. And you're the one who's taking the class and you don't know what to do. Because 1 in 10 people have this condition called ADHD, attention deficiency hyperactive disorder. Attention deficiency hyperactive disorder. That's what they have. So 1 in 10. So therefore, if you have 30 students, there are 3. And they cannot sit in one place. They're fidgety. But we are also caught up with a whole lot of very difficult to handle sometimes. Then they grow up and they are, say, 13 years, 14 years, they turn to be very rebellious, arrogant, and they don't cooperate. Now we don't know what to do. So dealing with children, not easy, but it is very satisfying, but sometimes very frustrating as well. Okay, now let's define what parenting is. Okay, parenting means it's a process. It's a process where we support children and we also promote, we help them to grow physically, emotionally, socially, intellectually. We help them to grow right from infancy, that's the day they were born, till they cross 19 years, 20 years. It's a long stretch of 2 decades of work. And what we are doing, we are playing the supportive role. We are creating an environment so that children are healthy in their growth process, and psychologically, emotionally, physically, socially, intellectually, and so on. So parenting refers to the aspect of raising a child aside from the biological relationship. So parenting doesn't mean just because it's your son or your daughter. It could be your student. It could be your catechism child. or it could be somebody in the neighborhood who also shares this kind of a stage in their life. Okay, so basically, it is a supportive role and also to create a conducive environment so that children grow healthy. So we have all these stages when we are talking about, like preterm, newborn infants. Okay, then newborn infants, then we have infants, then we have children, that is age between 2 and 11, and 12 to 18 or 12 to 19 will be the adolescents. So it is a stretch where a baby is so helpless up to a state where a person can take charge of their life. It's a long stretch of time that we are talking today as children develop. Parenting is a process promoting support and all that, and there are basically different kinds of parenting styles we can have, and we have four main types. And what are they? Now, first is authoritarian parenting style. That could be like as parents, as teachers, as people who are guardians can take this role as an authoritarian parent. Now, what happens? These people, what they do, they're extremely strict, they are cold to emotions, they communicate very harshly, they punish them, and they only say, they don't listen. So it's almost like a relationship between a superior and an inferior. You know, friends, it's very difficult. I know somebody, this particular client came to me for counseling. He had some issues, like he was saying that he was driving the car. He was about 28, 29 years old, young man, married. He was driving the car on the highway, and then there was a truck that was passing by, and he wanted to just overtake it. So he honked, and the driver of the truck gave him a pass signal to overtake. So as he was trying to overtake, the truck driver was trying to push him down to the median, the middle of the road. You know, there's a barricade there. Now, what will happen? Now, he can't go to the left, he can't go to the right. He will crash the car. So he got so angry, he just raced and parked his car right in front of the truck, got down, pulled down the driver, and beat him up. That's a terrible reaction, isn't it? Yesterday, we were talking about anger. He got wild, it was rage. Now, why did he do that? Why did he do that? Now, anyway, to cut the story short, his father was a policeman. Up to age 16, his father used to punish him very strictly, especially with a police belt. He used to beat him. At age 16, when his father was beating him up with a belt, he held the belt and raised his hand against his father. And from that day, his father stopped beating. Okay? So he learned a lesson. Whenever I use aggression, the other person will not react. Now, this is what I'm talking about, an authoritarian parenting style. His father was an authoritarian. They are very extremely strict, cold to emotions. They give lectures, they yell, they punish, and they only are one-sided. Now, what will be the outcome of it? The outcome is, look at that, obedient. Obedient to what? Obedient to rules and regulations. So they might grow up, but they will not take any initiative. What is told to them, they will do. They are extremely scared and extremely suspicious. They're very distrustful. They don't trust people. Then they also feel that they are imprisoned. They feel imprisoned because they cannot be free. They can be withdrawn. They can be shy in a social setup. They can be unhappy. Some of them can become very hostile, angry, or some can be very underachievers. Now, you will have all these kind of people. Underachieving students are not underachieving because they want to underachieve. They're going through something and that is reflecting in their studies, their underachievement. Maybe there are children who just withdraw because it is because of the parenting style at home. So to understand a parenting style will also help us to understand the inner life or expression of the child. Now, friends, we ourselves can conform to this style, authoritarian parenting style. But that is the harm that we are going to do to the children. Children will grow up without trusting, and they feel that they are not free, they're withdrawn, unhappy, they can be aggressive, they can be underachievers, low self-esteem. We can also, if you take this position, we can also contribute to that. What is the second? The second type of parenting is permissive. That is freedom without limits. It's the opposite of that. That means you can do whatever you want. You go by your way and I'll go my way. Now, this is also not very good. Okay. Now, why? Because while parenting, there is an element of coaching and teaching. There is an element of coaching and teaching for which there is one important ingredient called discipline, because that is the role of a parent. They help the child because since they themselves have gone through, so they coach and teach for which they have to set up certain guidelines, and that should be discipline. Now, if you're allowing your child to do whatever you want without any guidelines, then the child will learn the wrong thing, because we know they're capable of observational learning. Okay, so these kind of parents are lax. They don't take care. They're okay. You wanted to go there, go. You want to eat outside, eat outside. You want to bring in your friends, bring in your friends. You want to get up at 11 o'clock in the morning, get up at 11 o'clock in the morning. Now, this is not helping. Okay, this can create this aggression, because the child can turn out to be a very demanding one, because the parents never disciplined. So they turn out to be very arrogant, aggressive. They can put on a lot of tantrum, and they also have no self-control. They cannot control themselves. So they can indulge into addictive behaviors. Like today we have great addictions. Mobile phone is a great addiction. Internet is a big addiction. Pornography is an addiction. Or alcoholism is an addiction. We have smoking and an addiction. So people can, they cannot control themselves because they think anything is okay. Okay. So this does a lot of harm to people. So permissive kind of parenting style is also not ideal. Third, democratic. A democratic means there are freedoms, there are limitations. There are freedoms and there are limitations. That means I'm considering the child as a part of my social group. We have a common law. We all abide by a common law, but then we also are a same group. So what does that do? They stand the middle ground. That means they're okay, they're warm, they're loving, they're disciplined, but they also cultivate values like honesty, truthfulness, punctuality, and self-discipline, abstinence. No, these are values. And how do they do it? Because the set of rules in the family applies to all the members in the family. It is not only for the children. Now, sometimes this happens, friends. We might tell the child not to do, but we do it ourselves. That gives a mixed message. Okay. We tell them not to look, not to be distracted, don't talk, but I am fiddling with the phone. Or the parents are saying, you have to study, don't watch TV, and they're watching TV. It sends a mixed kind of a message. So a democratic style would mean there is a set of rules that all the members of the group, whether father, mother, brother, sister, all of them maintain. At the same time, you're accepted as you are, loved and guided, but also positively disciplined and encouraged to grow. Now, what will the outcome? Now, this is one of the best things that can happen. People can turn out to be brilliant, especially they are happy children. They can be very happy children. They're not afraid to make mistakes and to change and to learn. They are friendly, generous people. They tend to be cooperative. They work together. So these are very beautiful quality that comes out of a democratic style of parenting. Now, friends, I am using the word parenting interchangeably with teaching profession because here I think most of us are dealing with children, okay? Children as teachers and as parents. So, what I mean by parenting is all inclusive. Now, we can also have different types of relationships with children. Okay, so we saw the four kinds, right? We have the four kinds of, but we also can have relationships like this: a secure relationship, avoidant relationship, ambivalent relationship, and disorganized relationship. Now, when we are with our children, it is not by a set of rules that applies even to the community, even to the congregation. We are not there because we have a set of rules to follow, but we are there because there is a kind of a relationship that exists among members. So whether it's teacher-student relationship or the son-father relationship, daughter-mother relationship, all that has something to do with a relationship. There's a give and a take. So we can exhibit these four: secure relationships, avoidant relationships, ambivalent relationships, disorganized relationships. What do I mean? Let's see one by one. What is a secure relationship? Secure relationship is stronger when the attachment is more. Okay? When there is an attachment, the person feels secure. Have you seen children, little ones, these toddlers, when they walk, they'll always hold the mama's hand or the mama's sari. They go. The moment the mother moves away, they start crying. The moment the mother appears, they stop crying. Now, that is what we are talking about, as security. Because when a child is born, before it was born, the most secure place was the mother's womb. The mother's womb was the safest for the child. Child need not do anything, but it was protected. But the moment it was born, it has to protect itself. And initially, the child is vulnerable or they are powerless. So they depend on a secure relationship that will be a father or a mother. Or in school, it could be the teacher. So what the attachment is stronger where there is a relationship. You feel safe. You don't feel threatened. You feel that I feel comfortable and they feel supported. Now, this is a secure relationship. And this is what we need to create. Okay. Second is an avoidant relationship. And what happens to avoidant relationship? Now, avoidant relationship can happen in families where they have issues like single parenting, issues like alcoholism, because one member of the family is running away. An alcoholic is a victim. They consider themselves victims and they would like to run away from the situation. That's escapism. So imagine a child growing in a family looking at the father or the mother who's an alcoholic who's trying to run from reality. They feel insecure themselves. Okay, so they feel fear. They're anxious children. You know, some of the children are very anxious. They're anxious about relating. They're anxious about talking to somebody. They're anxious in a social group. They're anxious to take initiatives. They're anxious even before a result comes in. They're anxious in front of a teacher or or a elder. Now, all this happens because somewhere down the line, they probably had mirrored an avoidant relationship. What is ambivalence or ambivalent relationship? Now, ambivalent relationship is another way of child maybe insecurely attached to his parents. Child notices what behavior got their parents' attention in the past and uses it over and over. Children are always looking for the feeling of security. Now, look at this. This ambivalent is confused, but the children are very clever. I told you initially about what do you say? Observational learning. They learn by observing. They're looking at people. And by observing, what do? They also see when were the elders happy. So they will try to please them. They will try to please them. Try to play the good child gain. So these people, when they grow up, what happens? They become people pleasers, but they also have very high insecurity. They can have people pleasers, so they will go on to please everybody. They are the ones who will go on gossiping about somebody. They will be the ones who will be the good teachers' pets. They will go complain about other students, or they are the ones who would like to be, the good child, wanted to show that I'm good, but inside they can be only people play. They can wear a mask all their lives and please everybody else, and they don't live their lives. Now, this is a very, very sad thing. There are people who grow up, who are 50, 60, and still they are like that. Ambivalent relationships can happen that way. What is a disorganized relationship? A disorganized child don't know what to expect from their parents. Now, I told you mixed messages. Mixed messages. When the mother or the father, the initial caregiver, or even a teacher sends mixed messages. What do I mean by mixed messages? I'll use this term called double bind situation. Okay, I'm using this terminology. Okay, it's called double bind situation. Now, it's like the mother is telling the child, you must not lie. Lying is bad. Okay, you shall not lie because lying is bad. But then the calling bell rings, and the neighbor asks for the mother. And now you know what the mother says? Tell that mama is not in. Now the child gets confused. Just now mama said you shall not lie, and now she is telling me to lie. What should I do? This is a typical double bind. You see, mixed messages. There is a yes and a no at the same place. Now which one to choose? It is not either or, it is both. So there's a lot of confusion that can happen to children when there are mixed messages. Now, people with mixed messages, children have problems. Okay, they have problems. What they do, they will try to go on to do things, and they will have a higher level of anxiety. More than that, they will have a sense of uncertainty. They will. Have you seen people say this? I've heard a lot of people. How did you do your exams? Okay. Actually, they did well, but they can't say. How is life going on? You see, there's a very, how's life? You can say good or not so good. Okay. Okay is what? We don't know. The thing is, they try to play safe, and they have very high levels of anxiety if people have relationships with disorganized relationships. Okay? Of course, it also can happen when there are issues happening between mother and father. If there is a communication problem, or whether there's an issue going between the mother and the father, then that can severely affect the child. Okay. Now, friends, when we're talking about childhood, we need to talk about other aspects of childhood, like touch responses. Now, of course, we will revisit them as we go on. Now, one of the things is very important for is touch. Now, you would have gone to Mother Teresa sisters' orphanages, homes. They take care of these babies who are discarded, right? If you go there, these children will come and hold your hands. They will touch you. Why? Because they were discarded at birth, and they lack the sense of touch. Touch is a very important thing for trust building. So, you know what the feeding of a mother is? It is just not a biological uh, thing that the mother does to feed the child, but it is also psychological. It builds trust. It is touch. When the mother feeds, the mother sings to it, the lullabies that we are talking about. Okay, the sings or speaks to the mother, to the baby. The mother holds the baby, the warmth of the mother, the hand and the body. The child can listen to the rhythm of the heartbeat of the mother. All that helps the child to build trust, to trust not the self, but trust the world. That's very important. So touch is very important that we need to do. So some people lack touch, so they always have this feeling of insecurity. So now we were talking about the child rearing part of it. Okay. Now initially the children need basic things. Okay. They need a set of discipline because they are uncontrollable. They need to be groomed in an environment where they are able to grow physically strong, emotionally strong, and intellectually strong. So then that is between age 1 and say 12. Now, what happens when people attain puberty? That is when things happen. Okay. Now, one of the things that parents do with children is punishments, physical punishment, like beating, slapping. Now, these are not considered okay. In some countries, the child, they can even call for child help, child support. Children can call up and say, my father is beating me. And father can be arrested. It's possible in some countries, like US, I think, UK, yes. But somewhat, this physical punishments can create a scar. Okay. Now, what happens? First of all, it is one of the 4 kinds of abuses. Physical punishment is considered as one of the 4 kinds of abuses. What are the 4 kinds of abuses? We talk about first one is the physical abuse, that's beating, slapping. Second one is called verbal abuse, that means use of bad language, swearing, or putting down somebody. Third is sexual abuse, that is a person is sexually molested or abused. And the fourth, that is very prevalent today, is the abuse of neglect. Now today, father and mother are working so hard to provide good education for the child, and they substitute love with things and money. But what the child needs is care and attention. Now, friends, this I had a client. She was studying in class 12. She was brought to me for counseling because she had attempted suicide. Attempted suicide. Not once. She attempted suicide 17 times. You could write a book, How to Commit Suicide. 17 different types. And all the time she survived. Sometimes she slit her wrist and somebody saved her. Sometimes she put a cellophane bag or a polythene bag and tied it, but she did not realize there was a hole on the top. She tried to hang herself from a fan and the fan came down. She survived. And the final time, that 17th time was, she swallowed 13 naphthalene balls. You know, the naphthalene balls, which we use for protection from moth. She swallowed 13. I don't know whether it's a bad number, 13. Friday the 13th, so probably she took 13. Survived. Now, this is what happened in our counseling session. We both were sitting. I said, I'm so and so, I'm Father Stanny, and you are. She told me her name. Then silence. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of silence. She was looking down and playing with a handkerchief like this. Full time. We both were sitting in silence. Then again, I started a conversation. She gave me a reply like, uh-huh, that's all, finished. Is it a yes or a no? I don't know. After that, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and the time was up. So we sat in silence with 2 sentences. So I told her, see, I would like to give you my card. If you wish to call me, please feel free. Then I went. 10 days later, she called me. I said, okay. I said, okay, how are you feeling after our first visit? She said, one word, good, full stop, and silence. Next 15 minutes, she was playing with a handkerchief. Then after 15 minutes, she burst out and she started crying. Now, friends, you might be wondering why she's doing that. She was testing me. She was testing me to see whether this man is reliable or trustworthy, because she had issues of trust. Now, coming to her story, father's working abroad, and she's the only child. Mother's working for the government department, the government agency, and she goes out early in the morning to the office, comes back late at night. By then, she packs her food, she goes to school, comes back, goes for tuition, comes back, eats, and she goes to sleep. So she hardly meets her father or mother. So her attempts were attention seeking attempts. She was trying to send a message, I need you. Now, this is what we are talking about, the abuse of neglect. Friends, this can happen in schools, this can happen in families. So that is an abuse in itself. So here, what happens? It can create a whole lot of temperamental difficulties like aggression, misbehavior, reactions, violent, and they can have a whole lot of mistrust. Now, if an authoritarian, what will happen? The person will have a low self-esteem. They can have absolutely no self-respect. That means they have boundary issues. You know what are boundary issues? Yesterday we talked about boundaries, where I end and where you begin. So anybody can walk on them. Anybody can abuse them. Anybody can use them. It's almost like they become a doormat to anybody. Anybody can walk on. Okay, they seem to be very withdrawn. They refuse to communicate and find it difficult to obey authority, and they can get into addictive behavior and so on. Okay, yeah, same thing. The second thing that we need to understand is no boundaries. That's what we're coming to. What happens with boundaries? Now, friends, when we're talking about boundaries, we need to help children create their space. I told you yesterday, it is a mental bubble. It's a mental bubble, but we can't see it. But I need to create it because that is mine. So if children do not have that boundary, they will fuse into somebody else. And these are the people who will get so angry. These are the people who can't say no to people, no to life, and they can have temper tantrums and so on. So helping them to create realistic boundaries is one of the major things that we need to do. Okay. Now, let's talk about adolescence. How do we understand adolescence? Now, adolescence, we call it as teenage, or we say it is a life in between. Now, simply put, a child is in transition. A child is in the transition into adulthood. Now, the person looks at himself or herself and says, I am not a child, I am not an adult, and therefore the primary question that goes on in their mind is, who am I? The primary question, who am I? What is my identity? I'm not a child, I'm not an adult, who am I? So this is a very confusing state because the growth is so rapid. They also attain sexual maturity. So women have what do you call it? They have their first monthly cycle. Boys come of age, so they also get attracted to the opposite gender. When the body is growing very fast, and there's a lot of skeletal growth, muscular growth, so they feel hunger, they feel tired, and they can't focus, and they feel they are misunderstood, and they feel that they're nowhere, caught in between. Now, that is a feeling of an adolescent, and this is very important to understand. So, therefore, what they do, they will try to be attracted towards a hero symbol, a hero. Okay, so that is why they like film stars, sports stars, and they try to identify with them. They can even identify with a superhero like Batman and Flash, Aquaman. Today we have Aquaman, and you have Iron Man or whatever man. Okay, so you can have all the men, so they can get attracted like that. The people can get even attracted to fictitious characters like Spartacus. Spartacus was a rebel gladiator, the Roman rebel gladiator who started a revolt against Rome, which is called the Third Servile War. which they lost. So there were 72 people, gladiators, gladiators who fight among themselves and kill each other. They ran away and they started a big mass movement, and they even defeated Roman legions, but ultimately they all defeated. And why? He spoke about freedom. I will not be a slave, because gladiators were slaves. I will live and die a free man. So you see the ideals, freedom, freedom. So they can get attracted to a fictitious character. We don't know whether Spartacus lived. We don't know. Or probably he did. We don't know. Nobody knows. But there was a revolt that happened. But initially they can get attracted. So everything changes. So till 13 or till 11 or sometimes 12, they are very obedient children. You tell them, they will do it. They are law-abiding citizens. They're very nice people. But when they turn 12 or 13, everything goes upside down. First thing, their hairstyle changes, their dressing changes, their tone changes, their walk changes. Sometimes people wear, a torn jeans which will fall off their legs anytime. Or they will color their hair, they'll have a spike like this, and they can color it green and blue. They might puncture their ears right across the ear, put a stud here in the tongue also. You'll see all kinds of things. Now, for an adult, it is not good. That's what we think. But actually, friends, we need to understand, it is a silent cry for attention. It is a silent cry for attention. They're saying, look at me. I am somebody, but I don't know who. Actually, it's very sad. When we meet people who are adolescents, we need to be very compassionate. We need to be compassionate because they are searching for their own identity and they're confused. So it is a transition from childhood to adulthood. So they're moving towards independence and autonomy, and they are more interested about personal identity. And they also feel that they themselves are superheroes, Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman. They think they are. And for them, everything is a new experience. First experience. Initially, everything was friends. Now they're getting attracted to girls. They don't know why. Girls are attracted to boys. They don't know why. Because even sometimes, sisters and fathers, I had been a pre-novitiate director. I had this experience. My pre-novices were all like between, say, 16 and 20 years old. Typical adolescent. Now, as a formator, what I would think, I want the person to sit in the chapel for meditation with angelic holiness, which is not possible. They'll be thinking about the girl they saw in church, in the chapel, because that is their age. That as a formator, I should understand. But I am looking at from a 35 years perspective, and I'm making them 35, but they're only 16, and they're going through a struggle. They play pranks. They like fun. Okay. So one thing I learned as a formator is I pretended that I have not seen many things, unless they're extreme. I pretended not to notice many things. I noticed, but I pretend not, as if I never saw. Because this is a time that they are trying everything, first-hand experiences, and we need to guide them. So whom do they need at this point of time? Now, all the grown-ups say, this is a common complaint that comes with the adolescents. Parents, teachers, they say, nothing is working out. They're so arrogant. They act so immaturely. Now, why? Because we had a strategy that worked. Now, we use the same strategy now. It is not working. You know what that strategy is? Control. Control is our only strategy. Because when people were children, that control worked because they were physically not that strong. So you say, you give a stare, that works. But you stare at a teenager or an adolescent, they will stare back at you. It's not working. Now, that is not what they want, but we think that is what they want. So somehow we our strategies don't work because we are using control as a tool to take care of them. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. Then what do they want? They want a friend. They want a friend. That doesn't mean that we have to become like the adolescents. Some people do that also. They also go become like adolescents. No, they don't expect the grown-ups to become adolescents, but they want them to be understanding. So if a father or a mother or a teacher turns out to be a good friend, I think they are in the right hands, people in adolescence. Now, what to do? It's a tough job because they will test you. They will test you and they will take a long time to trust you. So that is the thing that people in adolescence. So when we're talking about adolescent friend, we need to look at these children with compassion because they are going through a lot for a period of time of 7 years and they have no clue what's happening. And probably they don't even have a support system because all the old ones, the elder ones, they're only finding fault at them, they're not helping them. So this is where the teachers come in, the parents come in. They need understanding. They will talk about issues of sexuality. You should feel comfortable about it. Sometimes we don't like it, just show, don't talk about it. It doesn't work because they attained sexual maturation. So that's part of our conversation. So let them talk about it. Let them come to you. Treat them like an adult. Treat them with their space and ask advices, ask opinions. You know, treat them as if they are grown-ups. So that would give them that trust element. If we can do that, I think they always are with us. Now, my personal experience, because I worked for about 10 years, all of my experience about the adolescents, you trust them and they know that you trust them. They will never break your trust. That's a given, people with adolescents. You trust them and they know that you trust them. They will never break your trust. If they make a mistake, they'll come and apologize. That is how it's a long struggle, but still it's workable. Okay, now some of the things that we can do is sometimes we can turn out to be authoritative parents, as we already mentioned. So being authoritative, what happens? We put up control as our tool, not working. They turn out to be rebellious. Sometimes we give over permission, too much. Do whatever you want, go wherever you want. You want to have a drink, go have a drink. You want to go for parties, go have parties. You want to go for a picnic, go. You want money, take over whatever you want. Now, that doesn't work. That will create a whole lot of other issues like weaknesses, temper tantrums, and firmness, discipline. They can be very shabby and they will lack values. They will not have a goal in life. So all that can happen. Now, the third is neglectful. If the child is neglected, then they will assert themselves, can turn out to be very rebellious. But one of the things is anxiety. Anxiety is caused because of insecurity. Friends, we have even adults who are very insecure. Mostly the ones who control and dominate. It's just a facade, but inside they're scared. The one who's not insecure will be open enough to say that I made a mistake. But there are people who defend and defend and defend. Now, it's because of insecurity. Now, it did not start at 45 years. It started right then at 12 years, 13 years, and 14 years because of the parents or the teachers that we were blessed with. Okay, so they do not have a goal and their performances will be very poor in every aspect, studies or sport, and they turn out to be very neglectful parents later on. They have a kind of disregard for any boundaries or rules, laws. Okay, now what should we do? That is what we need to understand. Now explain the difference between punishment and discipline. Okay, that's the first thing that we need to do. A punishment is something, a discipline is something else. Now, what's the difference? A punishment does not have understanding. It's unilateral. Okay? There's no explanation. There's no understanding. But in discipline, there is a understanding and education. In discipline, there is an understanding from the other perspective, and also there's education. So I educate my students, I educate my children, teach them, coach them. Okay, so we need to have an established guidelines for discipline. Now, friends, one of the tidbits I'd like to share with you: don't give them 265 rules. It doesn't work. Okay, give them 3 rules at a time, then increase it by another 2, then increase it by another 2. Okay, so if you give everything as a chunk, it does not work. Now, we need to discipline, we need to explain why. But some of the parents and teachers, our intentions are good, but unfortunately we do not explain why. So child feels misunderstood, or the parent get misunderstood. Okay, of course, what do you call, physical punishing is never a good disciplining strategy. Never. Now, what do they make? So disciplines are important because they make them important in society. It's important. Just like safety, road safety, or upholding the law, what happens? Okay. Now, these are very important. Physical punishments we saw. Okay. Now, just for us to understand, the ineffective discipline uses physical punishment, which causes 4 R's. You know, when there's too much of discipline, and that discipline is physical discipline, that can cause the 4 R's. And what are they? Number 1, resentment. That means it's not fair. Second, revenge. That means I will get back to you later when I'm strong. Third, retreat. It's withdrawal. And 4 is rebellion. I'll do it anyway just to exert control. Now, this is what will happen when we have physical disciplining, the 4 R's. Yesterday we saw the 4 I's, right? Invasion, injury, injustice, and intention. Today we are seeing 4 R's: resentment, revenge, retreat, and rebellion. So these are the 4 things that can happen to physical punishments. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to run this through. Now we need to understand, what can we do? Parenting is about building a relationship with our child. Basically, that's the crux of it. Now, we need to build relationships, building relationships, which is very, very important. Very, very important. I'll give you this example. I have a friend, and he's the owner of 2 big companies, 3 companies. He's got 1 company in India, 2 companies abroad. He's very rich. Now, he's got 2 children. One is studying in 6th grade, the other one is studying in 9th grade, elder boy. So one day we visited his house for some program. We were just chatting with him, and then the little one, the 6th grade one, she was excited. Okay, so we were friends actually. So she said, "Oh, uncle has come." So she went and made coffee, whatever coffee it was, and she brought 2 cups in her hand and gave it. And immediately, my friend, he looked at her daughter and said, he called her by name and said, "You know, I will give you only 8 points. I will not give you 10 points." And she asked, "Why, Dada?" And you know what he said? "See, when you serve the guest, you had to bring it on a tray, not with your hands. So therefore, I will give you only 8 points, not 10 points." Now, this is discipline and relationship. You see? And she said, "Okay, Dada," and went away. But she learned something, and the relationship became more strong. And the same night, something else happened. His son came and said, Dad, I'm feeling hungry, just order pizza. Now he said, Mama's cooking dinner. Okay, there are snacks in the cupboard, so you go help yourself, and we are having dinner at 8:30. Now look at this, friends. He is a very rich man. To order a pizza is not a big thing. He could have, but he did. But he told something after that. He said, they should learn. They should learn the importance of family gathering. They should learn the importance of dining together and communicating together. He's a rich man. He could have ordered a pizza, but he didn't. Now, that's what we are talking about. Parenting is about building a relationship and balancing it with discipline, a positive discipline. Lack of relationship due to generation gap or due to lack of presence, it is the result of long-term neglect. Now, lack of relationship, neglect, all that can have an issue. Now, one of the things that we do, we also we have favorites. Teachers play this game, right? Teachers also have favorite children, and there are also children that they don't like. Why they don't like? Because they don't know how to control them. So they have their favorite. Now that is a dangerous thing to happen because the favorites will be like pleasers. The other ones feel hurt. So we need to build in a rapport, a relationship that is important. Okay, parents need to take the first initiative. Basically, they have to do that. And what do? They also make a commitment with the child. Okay, parenting is not just a matter of providing the child's basic physical needs, but also how to be there for the child. Sometimes this is a big misunderstanding today. They all wanted to work hard, earn more money for the child, but they don't know what the child really wants. The child wants them, but then they're working for the child. It's a paradox basically, and that happens in many families, and they become very rebellious children at 21, 22. Many people get into addictive behaviors, and yeah, it's not a good start. Number two, what you need to do, establish communication. Now, it's just not communication, it is an open communication, because communication can be one-sided. I'm telling you, you better listen. That could be one. Sometimes we take the strategy that doesn't work at all. Maybe short term, but it doesn't really work. So you need to establish an open communication. So it is important. Now, what will happen? Lack of communication can cause certain barriers, which may include status difference, parent-child, physical, emotional, attitudinal differences. Physical differences also. Okay, who are you? You're my child and you're advising me? Yeah, that can be an attitude of a parent or even of a teacher. Okay, I'm your teacher, you're my student, and you listen to me. I don't have to listen to you. So sometimes we need to have, sometimes a feedback system is one of the best systems. So you're establishing kind of a communication that goes to and fro from the teachers to the children, from the children to the teachers or parents. So that is the second thing that we need to keep in mind. Okay. Now, what is the third? The third would be like we need to watch out. Sorry. What did I do? I clicked something. Yeah. We need to watch out for the external influence, the peer group, as a third thing. Okay. Now, it is a balancing act for teachers and parents. What do you need to know who are the people that your child is mingling around with. You should know. At the same time, the child should have the freedom to be himself or herself with them. There's a balance between the two. Now, how do you know that they are good people? Invite them for a lunch. Then you get to know what kind of people they are. Make them feel comfortable. Or let them have a sleepover. Or maybe they can spend some quality time. Take them for a movie. No, these are opportunities for the elders to understand what kind of group that your child is moving along with. And also the group also knows that the mama's there. So that's a positive kind of a support system is possible. But unfortunately, most often what we do, the use of the word peer group itself sounds negative to most people. Okay. Of course, they are going to experiment a lot. Yeah. You need to pretend that you've not noticed a lot of things unless they're extremely important, like they're getting into smoking and drinking and all that. Yeah. There you need to talk about it. But maybe playing pranks, yeah, let's not be the person shadowing them all the time. Okay. So to have peer group is one way of helping the adolescents to grow socially mature. So they know how to talk, how to behave, how to make mistakes, how to fight, how to resolve. All that happens only in a social setting. So encourage them. So put them in a club, maybe a drama club, a singing club, or NCC, or some cadet corps, or maybe a sports club, somewhere where they have quality time, but it's purposeful as well. Okay. Insecurity of parents to be overrated by their friends. Friends could be the source of bad influence to our adolescents. Yeah, we know that. That is why we need to be careful. Yeah. So we need to know the peer group, and we also need to take care. Now, the fourth is like, what's happening? Yeah. Now, we also need to communicate moderation. Moderation is limitations. You have to set up limitations. Like, say, for example, time limits. What time are you supposed to come back home when you go out? You can't come back at 11 o'clock at night. No. That means you have a curfew hour. Your curfew hour is, say, you go out with your friends, you're back by 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. But it should be negotiable. Set up limits, deadlines. Okay. The notion of rules and limits are part of parenting as well, but they should be communicated well. Okay. Now, most of the times we make rules, but we do not say the value behind the rules. We don't tell why. We say do it, don't do it. But we don't say why we say to do, why we are telling them not to do. Okay? So this can lead into a lot of inconsistencies like power struggles, conflicts between child and the parent, the child and the teacher. It can create a whole lot of things. Okay, so we need to do that. Now we can create house rules. Now division of labor. Division of labor. Everybody does something. The father earns, mother homemaker. Who cooks when? Who washes? Who does the dishes? What does the kids do? When do they empty the dustbin? Who should do it? I think these are divisions of labor. In schools, everybody needs to be responsible. They should be given a responsibility and a deadline, and they should be checked, cross-checked. Now, this will give them a sense of power, at the same time, a sense of well-being, a communal well-being. They not think about themselves. So they also tend to be responsible, not only for them, they're also responsible for the project and also for the group. So this is a thing that we need to do when we're trying with rules. 5, affection and appreciation goes a long, long way. Affection and appreciation goes a long, long way. Now, friends, sometimes we give a discount basically. This is the area we give a discount. Like I know this in Anugraha, the institute where I teach, during the counselor skills practice or training program, the last day there used to be one particular event that's called strength bombardment. Okay, strength bombard. You know what bombardment is? Bombardment means literally hitting. But what are you hitting with? You're hitting people with all the positive connotations about that person. What that you observe that entire month of your stay there. So we have a person who comes in and they will try to exhibit on a collage what was their growth process before they came in, during this particular month in Anugraha, and what are the future course of action. They'll present it. Everybody applauds. And then people will appreciate them for all the good things that they see. Friends, literally, I've seen some of them, their face glow because they've never they never expected that, and they never got it in their past. I know some of them were more touched and healed more than the therapy itself. Some of them, because that's what affection and appreciation. So this is an area that we make a discount. So tell your students, even your students, appreciate them for the little things, or give an appraisal of something, or even a word of praise, a recognition. They can help. Like, say for example, you look smart today. That works. Okay, that's a wonderful watch band you're wearing. Beautiful. Now, this is just a word of appreciation can happen, or a pat on their back. Okay, somebody gets a 35% all the time, and then they made it to 37%. Give them a pat and say, "Good, well done. I have no doubts that you can do very well." Then that makes a difference. Okay. Now, this is something that we need to work on. Okay. So here we need to understand. We need to care. Now we can keep this in our mind. Care, C-A-R-E. Contact, be approachable and willing to spend time. A, ask questions, learn and understand their friends, activities, feelings, and relationships. R is right. You will earn the right over your child, especially in giving a piece of advice, and you can also do certain rules and regulations, chores and division of labor, all that. And E is encourage. Seek out a child's good behavior, affirm things they do right. Now, this is very important. Now, what is a balanced parent? Who is a balanced parent? A parent who can set up boundaries, has clearly defined rules. Rules are clear and consistently reinforced. So this is what we need to keep in mind. And we need to be respectful and firm at the same time. There are two sides at the same time. Be respectful, be firm. Now, you might ask, should I not punish? Of course you can, but it's not physical. You can bargain. So Saturday you want to go and play football, that means you have to complete your homework on Friday. If you complete, you go. Don't complete, don't go. That's a reward and punishment. But still, it is not offensive. It's not hurting anybody's psyche or the psychological makeup. So we can have a bargain. We can have reinforced behaviors. We can have the punishments or rewards. That's possible. Okay. Okay, friends. That's about the things that I would like to share. I know this is a vast topic, and then we have a very short time. So I think we did justice to it. But there are so many things in the PowerPoint. I'm going to forward that to Father, and Father will forward it to you. So now the floor is open to you for any questions, clarifications, or doubts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you very much, Father Stany. It's an excellent exposition. It's very, very helpful for us to know about how to deal. Many of you are teachers, some of your parents. I think you have got a lot of time for clarifications. And especially, I want to thank Father Stany because I'll go for meeting. Father Joseph, I want to introduce. He is our assistant director. Father is nearby. Just 1 minute. Father is our assistant director. He is expert in computer, not like us, young, full of life. Where's mine? Okay, he's the one. Yes, he's a Capuchin. Both of us are Capuchins. He's much more talented. Like what Father was telling, the younger ones are a very good one. So he'll be continuing this. First, I want to thank Father Stany on behalf of you and behalf of Thalir online ministries. He has already dealt with this midlife issues for the other groups, and he has taken very much special interest for teachers and parents. Dear friends, what I want to say is, this is only second level. There is still more further to go. You raise your response, your expectations. What are the areas you want to further more as a parent, as a formator, as a teacher? What are the areas you need? So accordingly, we'll go ahead. Because now, for example, we children and adolescents, we want to take up. Tomorrow we'll be taking some kind of emotion things. Probably we can think of altruism or how to develop effectiveness, time management, or conflict management. There are various issues we will be able to deal for you. We'll be able to deal with you. So depending on your request, we'll make to the third level, maybe in the month of January or February. We'll reduce into just 2 days, weekends. That's what we are thinking, but depending on your responses. So I leave the floor now for Jesu, will be able to lead you, and Father Joseph will continue. Thank you so much. Thank you, Father Stany, for the wonderful presentation. And I leave the whole time for your reflections. Thank you.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father. Yeah, someone named Dell. Sister, you can ask your question. Sister?
Would you please explain the causes for seeking attraction? Father, question.
Oh, yeah, it's a question. Okay. Attractions of, I mean, maybe the adolescent getting attracted to somebody.
No,
That's what you mean?
I think attention seeking, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Now, attention seeking can be for various reasons. Now, say, for example, a person who lacks this whole question of touch when they were growing up from their parents, they probably can become very attention seekers. Or if the attention was not given earlier on, so they will go on to be attention seekers. So there could be any number of reasons. So we need to figure out why. It could be some of these reasons. Basically, we can keep it in our mind that something that they lacked makes them to do the opposite.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
If you have any other question, friends, you can ask.
Someone, Dell had raised her. Yeah, yes, sister.
Yeah. Very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, my question is I've seen lots of cases like a dacoit son is becoming IPS. Sir, what are the basic factors that make him do, as you have told us that good parenting leads to the good etiquettes and good upbringing in the child, but he comes from such a background, the society is after him, and every kind of thing around him is just negative. So what are the factors and what is that thing which makes him do such kind of things that he comes up as an IPS officer in front of the whole of the society after getting a very bad experience from his parents? So this is my question.
Yeah, this is an exception. Actually, this is not everybody. It happens. See, for us, there's an element that we'd like to talk about. That's called resilience. Resilience is like a elastic band. That means the power to withstand pain and to move forward. All of us have that. For some, it's more. Now, some people would have looked at the scenario and they saw that I don't want to be like my parents, so it'll have a positive effect. Basically, that's a rebellion. It's a rebellion, but the outcome was good. Basically, rebellion. Many people do that. Yeah, my people are like this, and I will never be like that. So that is very positive, but still, it's a rebellion. So possibly that could have made him to choose IPS, and probably he did. That's one possibility.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
If a child is going to the worry path, which way make them understand?
Now
If
we
they
need
are
to
worried. Yeah.
we need to understand worry. Worry is too broad. Worried about what? I think that is more specific. Now we need to understand worried about what. It could be because of what's going on in the family, or what's going on between the father and the mother, or what's going on with the finances of the family, or what's going on between their relationship with their best friends in the school, or it could also mean what they are going through personally, maybe an examination or a performance, or so the thing is too broad. So according to that, we need to tackle the worry. So worry can take different shapes. So once we understand the worried about what, and then we can focus on what is the area and what we can do.
Thank you for that. Friends, if you have any other question, you can ask. You can raise the hand.
Yeah.
Could you please explain more about boundaries? You said we need to create it. What do you mean by this?
Now, boundary, I told you, it's a mental bubble. It is a space that belongs to me. Okay. It could be physical, that is a touch is one reaction, physical. It could be a space. It could be a psychological space also, mental space. Yesterday we talked about it. Mental space, spiritual space, and it's a gender space. So I tend to allow people in uh, to the extent I wanted them. Some people are very close, some people are very far, but I make the decision. Now, if that boundary is not there, what will happen? I will mesh up with you. That's called enmeshment. I will mix into you. So I will not have my own identity. I will take on the identity of the stronger one. So therefore, I will do whatever you say, and I will totally neglect my needs. That's a dangerous thing. So they can be brainwashed. They can be told to do whatever they want. Yeah. So the one who's got a very strong boundary can manipulate these people. So they can't say no. They will not have an appreciation for their lives. Therefore, what will happen? They'll become a pawn that people can move. So that's the danger of boundaries. Setting a boundary is saying that this is me, this is my space, and I will decide on all realities, physical, or psychological, spiritual, or gender, or even thinking. That's the boundary. It's
Mr.
another topic in itself. I don't want to get there.
Mr. Jeevaraj Sangaraj. You can
There's
unmute.
another question, Father.
Yes.
Is there any way to change behavior of a child brought up in the authoritarian way?
Yes, it's possible. It's possible because that's why it's a long term, like counseling and therapy is for that basically. So we can help them out, we can identify what are the issues and help them how to overcome them. So that is an intervention. So it's possible. That's why every school has a counselor now. It's recommended, but it's not enough. One counselor per school is too little.
Mr. Jeevaraj Tangarasa.
Yes. Hello, Father.
Hello.
I understand that adolescence is a crucial, stages in life, and it's a, sort of a bridge between childhood and adulthood. But quite often, when parents don't understand, the process that is happening to their children, how do we help them? Because sometimes they are not well educated, they are not able to understand, they are not in a position to understand what is happening to their children and how to help them out.
Now this
What
is
strategy?
yeah, this is a issue because traditionally people were living together. So joint families, many families live together. So therefore, children always felt that somebody or the other is there. Or if suppose somebody goes and beats somebody, there's somebody to protect them. That balance was maintained. Say I'm talking about the 1970s and 1980s. But today in nuclear families, what you're saying can be a very important issue. Now, all that it takes is we need to educate. I think this is awareness and education. We need to educate. So this what we are doing here is one of our attempts to educate. Basically, it's education basically, because we need, if we know the tools of it, then we can implement them. If we don't know, then we become problematic. We don't know how to, but we have the goodwill, but we don't have the tools. Now, this is what happens when parents do not know what they're doing. Intentions, they wanted to discipline the child and bring them up right, but unfortunately it backfires. So they need to be educated. There are different forums, like school is the wonderful forum, like for education, because they have the PTA meetings, parent-teacher meetings. I know Montfort Brothers, they periodically conduct parenting workshops, and it's compulsory for the parents to come and attend them. I've run a lot of those programs. So, like next week, I'll be running one in Kerala. So it's basically education. School is a big platform. The next platform is our place of ministry work. Like say, for example, place of worship, churches, temples, where we have uh, instructions possible. So we can instruct about parenting. So we can have a lot of ways and means to educate people.
Is there any way to
Thank
change
you.
behavior of a child brought up in an authoritarian way?
Yes, it is possible. That's why I think I answered this.
Yeah, you have answered it, Father.
Yeah.
The
So we
next
can.
question.
Miss
Father,
Del, yeah.
yeah, thank you so much. Father, the question is it good for a child to have a pain in order to become successful in his or her life?
Not necessarily. Pain does not ratify success all the time, because working hard itself is painful. But it's a general kind of a cliche that we say, "Oh, without pain, there's no gain." Yeah, what they mean is not that you have to be hurt to be healed. You need not get hurt also. Why should you get hurt in the first place?
No, not hurt in the sense like there are certain children I've seen like they are being bullied every time, and then they get passion that we have to prove ourselves to the society that yes, we are the best ones, and then they come out with the outcomes that we can never expect. Like, oh my God, this child has done this. This is what I'm asking.
Yes, that's what we need to actually identify these kind of people, because if they have a lot of pain and they're substituting their behavior for that. So if you can identify these behaviors, then we can get back to what causes this behavior. Then we can prevent. So there are a lot of prevention that can happen in schools and education. Now, one of the things that is about the education, the best part is we can really form, because the child spends practically more hours in school than at home, more hours there. Now, we can strategize, we can work through it, and that's a possibility. Unfortunately, what happens, we are caught up with our own system. As a system in school, we have our notes of lessons, and then we have a time frame. We have to finish our portions, and we have examination, paper correction, and we ourselves come from families, and we have our own problems at home. Now, all these can become barriers. So that is why we need to have that balancing act and create systems so that we can prevent what you're saying.
Friends,
Thank you.
it is already time. We officially wind up the session, but you can still ask question, I think. Father, can you spare some time?
Yeah, maybe another 5 minutes. So I
Yeah,
have
please.
another session at 5.
Okay. Even this is a religious question. Even when faced with difficult parents, can vocations blooms? Are they true vocations, or should we guide them in another way?
Sorry, come again.
If there are difficult parenthood background candidates coming to the religious congregation, should we encourage them to be inside, or should we guide them some other way? It's a
Yeah,
religious
it's
question.
it's a judgment call. It's a
Mhm.
real judgment call, because cannot blanketly say that people who come from broken families have no vocations. We can't say that. Once upon a time, they said that people come from broken families cannot be taken, but that is it's not right. It's not even just. But it's a judgment call. So that is why a lot of discerning goes through. And the stages of formation, if a person has taken to a seminary or a convent because they want to escape that, they will not survive 10 years and 12 years of training. So where there's a self evaluation, There's also an evaluation by a specific person. There are also specialists there. There are counselors there. There are spiritual directors there. So they also see. So people cannot fake it. But some do come out. That's true.
Thank you, Father. Father, another question. The parents of our school mostly working and they are not able to spend time with the children. So during the adolescence, how to manage them in the situation?
First of all, they should be able to explain their condition to the child. Many parents don't do. They go put them into a guilt trip. You see, I'm working so hard so that you can have something to eat today. No, this is a guilt trip. So the child can get really confused. It's your duty to put food on the table. Yeah, but so we need to explain. So I'm working here. So anyway, what do you want? So can we take a day off, or maybe can we spend some time together? It's basically a negotiation that can happen, which seldom happens in families, because we have only one tool called control. We say do as I say. They say go to hell. End of discussion. So if you can negotiate, things can work out.
Thank you, Father. Father, is there any connection between parenting and learning disabilities?
No, no. It's nothing to do with parenting, learning disabilities. It's like stutters or stammering. That can be sometimes because of fear or extreme anxiety. That could be psychological, but that can also be biological. We need to see what. Learning disabilities are basically psychological issues. That is why they're classified under the classifications of diseases.
Yes, thank you, Father.
Thank you.
From Theresia, this could be the last question. As a
Yes.
formator, what could the best way to help an adult who had avoidance relationship when she was a child? She has a very high anxiety, but she herself don't understand it.
I think the first thing is stop being a formator. Yes. Try being an understanding person. And if the person feels that I can trust you, they will open up. Then we will be of some help. If we hold that, the placard and the title called a formator, then we have set a boundary that they're not coming to us. That's one of the mistakes formators do.
Thank you very much, Father. Thank you, friends. We
Thank you,
wind up
friends.
the
So
session.
thank you very much, and it's been
Thank you.
a pleasure meeting you all here on Zoom.
Thank you very much, Father.
Dear friends, we have just completed the second day. Tomorrow, it's a very important theme we are discussing on how to develop emotional well-being. You must have heard about IQ, intellectual quotient. There is also emotional quotient, or they call it emotional intelligence. Today they are speaking about artificial intelligence, but we are speaking about emotional intelligence. How far we are able to relate or better our relationship, how to develop our interpersonal relationship. One thing is to speak the truth, but another thing is how to speak the truth, how to carry it forward. Very often we break relationship in the name of truth, straightforwardness, sincerity, honesty. Okay, all these things are very good, but how do you carry it out forward? So there's an element of sensibility, understanding, kindness, gentleness, all this put together, it's called emotional. So we'll be also speaking about developing an emotional bank balance. There are so many things are going on in the world today about how to develop relationship. And for us teachers, for us formators, for us people are in the religious circle or the family circle, in every level we can develop a wonderful relationship, affective maturity. All these things are put together. Tomorrow we'll be dealing with emotional quotient by Dr. Arul Kamaraj. So welcome for tomorrow. Come on time, come ahead of time. It's, 15 minutes earlier we'll be opening. I sent already yesterday's video. The full thing is there with you. The PowerPoint is there with you for Father Staney. today's talk and today's video also will be there. If you are missing anything, if you want old videos, go for Thalir-visit. Thalir-visit. You will get all the past motivational videos. That will be very, very helpful for you. You can always keep in touch with us. And so it is very helpful for us. Please look into the WhatsApp group for any communication. Just leave it for 2 more days, then you can leave it. If you want, you can leave it. Otherwise, we'll be giving back to you once again the updating of the next theme. If you want any special request or any special focus, you let us know. Then we'll be discuss with 1 or 2 resource persons we have. Then we'll be making a tailor-made program only for your sake. Thank you so much. Thank you for Stanny.
Thank you,
And
Father.
Thank you
for
very much,
Thank you.
Father.